to other countries to buy oil. This has dried up capital at home and made us dependent on foreign countries for our credit. We've also squandered and wasted hundreds of billions of hard-earned tax dollars on unnecessary and ineffective federal programs and thousands of wasteful earmarks. Just last week, we passed a bill with the highest rate of pork spending in history. While our talk of gloom and doom has heightened the financial panic here and around the world, and while we're asking Americans to bail us out, we're still spending money like there's no tomorrow. Years of wasteful spending and bad policies have resulted in a huge national debt of nearly $10 trillion. Much of this debt is held by China and Saudi Arabia and other foreign countries that some now say are dictating our financial policies. We know that Americans are now the victim of our misguided good intentions, along with our free enterprise system that has been severely damaged and weakened. We know that our bad policies have taken the accountability out of our markets by artificially insulating investors from normal risk. This has led to careless lending, careless investing, many bad decisions, and possible criminal activity on Wall Street. While many are blaming Americans in our free enterprise system for the crisis, we know that the government is the root cause of this crisis. I believe this Congress should admit its guilt, prove that we have learned from our mistakes, and correct the bad policies immediately that have caused these problems. We should insist that the Federal Reserve end the easy money policy. We should repeal the laws that requires our banks to make risky loans and fix the accounting requirements that force banks to undervalue their assets. We should develop a plan to break up Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and sell them to private investors who will run them as private companies. We should reduce corporate and capital gains taxes to encourage capital formation and boost asset values. We should also repeal the section of Sarbanes-Oxley that has driven billions of dollars of capital overseas. And we should do even more to grow our economy and lessen our dependence on foreign countries. We should immediately pass a law that expedites the development of our oil and natural gas reserves to help relieve the burden of high prices and gas shortages from our families. We should immediately adopt a freeze on non-security discretionary spending and pass a moratorium on earmarks until we fix this wasteful and corrupting system. We should sacrifice our political pork as we ask taxpayers to sacrifice for our mistakes. We have caused a terrible financial mess, and we must honestly tell the American people that whether we pass this huge bailout or not, there will likely be suffering and pain for our great country. But Americans in our free market economy are resilient, and with fewer misguided laws and less onerous regulations, we will get through this crisis like Americans have many times before. But we must tell Americans the truth. Congress says it was deregulation and capitalist greed that has run wild and undermined our financial system. Instead of reducing our role in the economy, we're trying to use this crisis to expand our power to control and manage the free enterprise system. We're here saying that our banks and mortgage companies have stopped lending money, that people can't get loans to buy cars, homes, or to run a business, and that our economy of the United States is on the verge of collapse. But we're telling people not to worry because we're going to rescue them with their own money. Congress is going to allow the Treasury Secretary to take $700 billion from taxpayers to buy bad loans and investments from anyone he chooses anywhere in the world. This, we say, will free up capital, get the credit markets working again, and put our economy back on track. But this Congress refuses to change our nation's monetary policy that created the cheap money and inflated the housing bubble. We refuse to change the accounting laws and regulations, even though they are making the problem worse. We refuse to lower capital gains and other taxes to attract capital and promote growth. We refuse to repeal Sarbanes-Oxley, even though it hasn't worked and it's cost our economy billions. And we refuse to expedite the development of America's energy resources, even though it would help every American and grow our economy. None of these things are even on the table for discussion. We're just telling the American